A warm good evening to all in India and a good day to all who have joined us from various corners of the world. Introducing myself, I am Bindu CA, Executive Member of ITPI Kerala Regional Chapter and Assistant Professor in School of Architecture and Planning, Government Engineering College, Thrissur. Today is a very special day as far as ITPI Kerala Regional Chapter is concerned, as we are celebrating the World Town Planning Day and World GIS Day. Well, we all are aware that now GIS Day was on November 8th was the World Town Planning Day, wherein all the planning community come together to celebrate it. Every year, ITPI celebrates the World Town Planning Day in the month of November by conducting various programs, events, and by launching new initiatives. And this year, Kerala Regional Chapter is launching the revamped website and is also publishing the e-directory consisting the details of Kerala Regional Chapter members, in addition to the fourth consecutive expert talk on the theme towards better planning and implementation. So before we move on, I request all the participants to ensure that your audio is on mute. Now, for officially starting the proceedings of the day, may I invite all the dignitaries onto the virtual dais. Mr. Jayakumar, Chairman, ITPI Kerala Regional Chapter, who is presiding today's function. ITPI Kerala Regional Chapter, Treasurer Sri Kiran Chand Vayat and Secretary Nagul Devan. Moderator for today's technical session, Rajesh PN. Esteemed Speaker of the technical session, Sri UMMER SAHIB, Director, INFORMAP Technology Center, Sharjah, UAE. And our Chief Guest of the day, Dr. Sharada MURALEEDHARAN, IAS, Additional Chief Secretary, LSGD. Now, I invite Sri Nagul Devan, Secretary, Kerala Regional Chapter, to give the welcome remarks.
Thank you, Bindu ma'am. Hello, a very good evening to one and all. I'm Nagul Devan Kia, the Secretary of ITPI Kerala Chapter, and I'm quite delighted to offer my welcome address for the special session that we are conducting today. As you're all aware, the World Town Planning Day is celebrated globally during the month of November. The event, initiated in 1949 to promote public and professional interest in planning, is celebrated worldwide as a special day to recognize and promote the role of planning in creating livable communities. ITPI Kerala Chapter has over the years taken special interest in conducting celebrations in this regard in the state. Today, as part of our new initiative of online webinars, we are able to host a celebration for all members and participants across the country and abroad too. For this special day, we have a very special guest today. I am delighted, honored, and humbled to welcome our chief guest for this evening, Srimati Sharada G. MURALEEDHARAN, IAS, Additional Chief Secretary, LSGD. An IAS officer of 1990 batch who has served multifaceted roles in the state and central service and who has made her mark in all the endeavors undertaken. The Navis measurements initiated by Sharada Madam has paved way towards bettering the efficiency of LSGD. Madam has also taken a keen interest in evolving the town planning activities in the state through timely and proactive efforts. It is an honor to have you here as our chief guest for today, Madam. And on behalf of ITPI KRC and myself, I would like to welcome you to this virtual dais. I'm also humbled to welcome our key speaker for today, Sri UMMER Sahib, Director, INFORMAP Technologies, UAE. Sri UMMER, one of our dynamic members, active in all the pursuits of our chapter, is a self-established professional in UAE. It gives me immense pleasure, sir, to have you today with us in this event and to enter us an expert talk on one of the most relevant topics related to new age urban planning. I'm sure it would be an informative session for all of us to hear from a real industry expert about GIS advancement in planning. ITPI Kerala Chapter is also proud to host such an event in the light of the upcoming World GIS Day celebrations on November 17th. On behalf of ITPI KRC and myself, I would like to welcome Sri UMMER Sahib to this virtual dais. I'm also happy to welcome our chairman, Sri J. Chekumar, the leader and coordinator of all our activities, to this program and the virtual dais. I would also like to welcome Sri Rajesh PN, our Senior Executive Committee member, to this virtual dais and for moderating the expert talk session. I'm happy to welcome Sri Kiran Chand Vayat, our Treasurer, also to this virtual dais. I convey my gratitude to the team behind this event and would like to welcome all our executive members, Srimati Shahina, Sri Suraj, Srimati Bindu, Ms. Malavika, to the virtual dais. I'm also quite delighted to offer a warm welcome to all senior planners of ITPA fraternity from across the country, other chapters, and also from our chapter this event. I also welcome all dear members of ITPA fraternity, respected teachers of all planning schools in our country, planning students, all planners, and each and every one of the planning fraternity across the country who could join us today. I conclude my welcome address by cordially inviting one and all to the World Town Planning Day celebrations of ITPA Kerala chapter. And let's all have a great session today and many more in the months to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Nagul. Now I invite our ITPA Kerala Regional Chapter Chairman, Sri Jayakumar, to deliver the presidential address.
Thank you, Bindu. Respected Chief Guest of the meeting, Srimati SARADA MURALEEDHARAN, Additional Chief Secretary, Local Self-Government Department, Government of Kerala. Our key technical speaker, Sri UMMER SAHIB, Director, Informatics Technology Center, UAE. Other senior leaders of our ITPA fraternity, like our General Secretary, Sri Kapoor Sahib, our senior, one of the renowned architects, Sri Mahesh sir, and I see many names, but some of the faces I am not seeing, so I am not elaborating much. Meeting moderator Sri Rajesh, Secretary Sri Nagul, Treasurer Sri Kiran, other committee members, members from teachers and students from technical institutions, other invited guests and friends. ITP Kerala chapter, since its inception in the year 1980s, has been conducting various technical sessions and also advising government in various planning related issues. And from the last year onwards, we had been conducted web talks due to the COVID pandemic situation and also due to the advancements in online meeting facilities. This year, our committee took charge in the year of July, and we decided to conduct one effective technical session aimed at planning and implementation, better planning and implementation. And we have already conducted 3 sessions. The first one was related to zoning. The second one was related to preparation of DTP schemes and its implementation, with especially emphasis on Gujarat. Third one we had last month, with it was about planning, master plan preparation in Dubai and UAE. This year, this month, we are having a special session from a special speaker, Sri UMMER Sahib, and he's being introduced in detail, so I'm not going much into his introduction. But I would like to mention one thing: he's a person who needs to do something good to his motherland. And we are having a lot of people like this in our Kerala chapter who wants to really help Kerala in dealing with planning related issues and also the current problems in our state. In fact, the program which we are conducting coming month, that is on December 2nd, Saturday, is flood mitigation principles and technologies adopted in Australia. That also is being taken by one of our Kerala chapter members. And she voluntarily called me and told about her interest in taking that subject, seeing the pathetic situation of floods in Kerala. So I hope in future our local self-government department will be able to capture such expertise from across the world and make it useful for planning and implementation in Kerala. Today, we have brought out a directive, and the last time we released a directory during the year 2017. At that time, we were having only less than 160 members. Now our membership has increased to around 230 live members, and it is still increasing. So we have today we are releasing a e-directory, and also we had a website which was released, which was brought out in the year 2018, but it was not up to the mark, and that has to be revamped. We have totally revamped it and brought it to the present standards, and today we are releasing it, and our Additional Chief Secretary, Srimati SARADA Madam, has kindly consented to be with us, inaugurate our function, and release the directory and website. From bottom of my heart and on behalf of Kerala chapter of ITPI, we thank you, Madam, for being with us. And I'm not taking much of the time since much awaited talks are yet to come. Let us move on to the other technical talks and inaugural function. Thank you. Bindu.
Thank you, Jayakumar sir. As mentioned earlier, we are celebrating the World Town Planning Day. So we are honored to have Dr. Sharada Muralidharan, IAS, Additional Chief Secretary of LSGD, to inaugurate the program. We are overwhelmed by your acceptance of our invitation. Before we move on to the inauguration, I request Malavika, our executive member, to introduce a guest.
Thank you, Bindu. Good evening to all. Our chief guest for the day is Srimati Sharada G. Muralidharan, a 1990 batch IAS officer and currently Additional Chief Secretary to the Local Self-Government Department, Government of Kerala. I'm extremely honored on behalf of ITPI Kerala chapter to introduce our chief guest for the day. An enviable career spanning 3 decades, which began with her service in Ujjain. She has been district collector Trivandrum 1998 to 2000. She spearheaded the Kudumbashree mission of the government of Kerala for 6 years, from 2006 to 2012, which is something every Keralite is very proud of. Has been accredited as one of the best and largest self-help groups in the country, and which is currently being replicated across the country. She then went on to be Chief Operating Officer at the National Rural Livelihoods Mission of the Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India, till December 2013. She was Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, Government of India from 2014 to 16, and responsible for conceptualizing and promoting the Gram Panchayat development plans that put a premium on citizen participation through the Gram Sabha. She also served as the Director General of National Institute of Fashion Technology for over 2.5 years and has been a key active member in restructuring of the curriculum of the NIFT and anchoring few strategic projects from sizing to trend research and design incubation at NIFT. Over the course of her service, Sharada ma'am has also held the post of Secretary Board of Revenue, Director Scheduled Caste Development, Commissioner Rural Development, Director Collegiate Education and Modernizing Government Program, during which she was also assigned the supervisory work under the Centralized Support Program. She was also Secretary to Government Cultural Affairs and Secretary to Government Social Welfare Kerala. This is a brief introduction of the service, the post that she has held while in service. All her remarkable achievements aside, I'm extremely humbled to see the cheerful, lovely person she is, which we saw in the few minutes that she interacted with us before the program itself started. And we are yet to see more of her lovely persona during over the course of this program. We're very happy to have you here with us, and on behalf of ITPI Kerala Regional Chapter, express my delight and gratitude in taking time out to join us for our World Town Planning Day celebration, and also consenting to release our directory and launch our revamped website. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Malavika. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in inviting Dr. Sharada Muralidharan to inaugurate the Town Planning Day celebration, launch the revamped website, and publish the e-directory. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Srimati Bindu and Malavika for that very intense introduction. I would, I only wish I were a doctor. I'm surrounded by them, but unfortunately, I don't have a PhD, nor do I have a medical degree. So I would just like to say that I'm just plain Sharada. But it gives me great pleasure to be here amongst you, amongst the town planners who are now have become an incredibly important set of people who are going to help us out of the mess that climate and extreme weather events have brought upon us. So we are looking to you with great expectation, hope, hoping that we will be able to actually come out with the resilience that will help us conquer what has been going on. And what is it that has been going on, and where does Kerala stand in this? The watershed year for us was 2018, with although we've had indicators before that too, with Oki and other disturbances. But 2018 brought home to us that climate change was at our doorstep, that it was invading our house, our households, that it did not spare anyone, that rivers could change courses, that dams could get overwhelmed, that severe intense rainfall over 3 or 4 days could saturate the earth and cause upheaval, cause entire land masses to shift. The extent of that, I don't think all of Kerala even understands at this point as to just how intense that has been, where you've had panchayats actually change shape. The contours and the places you knew, the wards that you were familiar with were no longer the same. So that kind of experience is something which has been new to us. We've had landslips, we've had floods, and we've always thought that we knew how to take them on. I remember, when after the 18 floods, because during the 18 floods, I was not in the state. My husband, however, was associated with this. And so I had occasion to visit the KSDMA to see their models and to talk with them and understand what was going on. So, one of the things they said was that when we were talking about identifying landslip prone or landslide prone areas in the Western Ghats and possible evacuation in case of extreme events, imagine one's horror when one is told that more than 50% of the Ghats would qualify for evacuation. So we are talking about, in a similar scenario of having to evacuate millions of people. And millions of people where to? As a state with the kind of population density like Kerala. That was, it brought home to us just how serious the situation was and how vulnerable our ecosystems had become with the kind of interventions, human interventions that have been ongoing, not for 5 to 10 years, for over 50 years. I mean, we have the way at which we have urbanized, the way in which we have moved and crawled into the mountains, the way we have converted them into plantations, the way we have cut roads, and decentralized governance also has a big role to play here, because everybody wants roads and everybody wants access. We know that roads increase the value of land. So individually, each and every one of us would really like a good road to come up in our backyard or a front yard. But the cost of this has also been that we have been doing so much of leveling. We have been blocking water channels. and we have ourselves exacerbated floods. You get to see that elsewhere too, when we protect ourselves from floods through embankments, and then realize that you might get severe events which will cause these embankments to breach. And when you do so, you are unleashing a fury far beyond that which would have happened if there had been no embankment. So that's one side of the story. And on the other side, you've got the Arabian Sea misbehaving. Weather systems are misbehaving quite liberally these days. We've had cyclonic formations in the Arabian Sea, which we've never heard about. I mean, not in my years of existence on this planet have I had to worry about a cyclone coming out of the Arabian Sea. It's always been the Bay of Bengal. So, you find that the weather systems also, what started with El Nino and then El Nina, and has now gone into aberrant systems, which we are expected to see more of, and in much greater manifestations of over time. This compounded with the fact that that both the Antarctic and Arctic ice are melting, and we are losing our glaciers. We are the amount of fresh water that is being pumped into the ocean is changing ocean currents, and changing ocean currents. We already have a very significant reduction in fish population. It is expected that we see that marine fishing itself is something which is going to go out of existence in a time faster than we understand. And it was also scary to see that that planktons and kelp and how they form, and the surge of fresh waters, how they change the equilibrium, the saline equilibrium of the oceans, would end up in changing ocean currents and impacting climate again in ways which we would not be expecting, impacting weather systems. And lo and behold, we now have apps which tell us that by 2030, how much of Kochi city will be underwater from the sea. And sea erosion. We've got many of you are from Trivandrum, and you would know that the Trivandrum airport is not going to be around for much longer. The way the sea is eating up, has already eaten up the approach road, and is going to be coming closer. So we've got a huge problem on our hands. We have, of course, modified the Town and Country Planning Act to bring in risk-informed planning. But what is this risk information? And how do we use this risk information? It has been, a post-2019 floods and landslides, we got our act together. One of the things we realized with local governments are the first responders in any calamity. We then also realized that the State Disaster Management Authority and the District Disaster Management Authority may have authority, but they don't have resources. The resources are actually vested and available with the local governments. These resources, by way of their own resources, by way of their human resources, by way of their of the space that has been given in local governance, and by way of the financial resources that have been devolved to them. So huge possibilities. And therefore, we had come out with these disaster management plans that all local governments were to make. The local government plan, the disaster management plans had two components. One component was to do a situation analysis. And for that situation analysis, we had the KSDMA come out and help us with actually doing they did a localization of various maps that were available to us. So we got to see how do floodplains behave, what is the road network in an area, what are the assets, the infrastructural assets in a place, who are the vulnerable communities and where are they, how are they spread across, what are the irrigation channels, and multiple things. So in a sense, 29 maps were given to us to help us to build and get an understanding of how to extrapolate on information that has, for the very first time in planning, been made available at the level of the municipality, at the level of the panchayat. Of course, we had very little time in 2019 to push this through because it was a very quickly thrown together recipe. And what we also saw was that, so while the local governments were very happy to have received the plan, to receive these maps, not one of them knew what to do with them. So, and then, with the Rebuild Kerala initiative, pushing for risk information, getting assimilated into the master planning exercise that the state was doing, we came out with the chief town planner and their office came out with 2 master plans. One was for Manandawadi municipality and the other was for Chenganur, which actually looked at using these maps. So that was our first indication that, these maps, we could do that layering, that they would, that they could be brought in and used, and so that, and a level of risk information was brought into the quality. So in spatial planning, we were actually working with much more than anecdotal and local documented information. We were having real physical live information that was going into the that was going into working out the attributes of planning and understanding systems and context. But let me, I'm digressing, or rather I'm moving ahead a little bit too quickly. The plans that we made had 2 major components, as I said: situation analysis, followed by what we had hoped would be phase-wise incremental plans that would start with looking at emergency, look at early warning, emergency response, shelter management, and move on to rehabilitation, mitigation, and finally climate action. So why am I talking of all this and what would be the relevance here? While this is happening, we've also had a block panchayat. This was a Cheriyangir block panchayat in Kerala, in Trivandrum district, coming out with a collaboration with KESREC. And they went in for a complete GIS mapping of all their water sources in the block panchayat. And this was something which was done with community participation. This community participation led us to a very interesting document, a huge document, which gave us a very clear instance of over time, which would be, one piece of information that caught my fancy was about, you knew all the wells, you knew how much water was in the wells, the water table, and the height of the water table and how low it would sink. But you also got to know in a drought situation when the wells would run dry, which were the wells that were running dry when. And by plotting that, we were able to see very clearly as to which were the more arid areas, the areas where we had trouble in terms of the groundwater systems, and when this trouble was likely to, and in context of drought, when problems were likely to arise. So suddenly we found that we had invaluable information to help us plan, not just on emergency response or where you would get the water tankers to go, but where we needed to invest in water supply systems, how we could look at investing them, and it also linked us with the possibility of taking a project into an outcome. So you bring a project for water management, And you actually can, through another GIS-enabled exercise, you could come out with a clear picture of what the outcome of the project was. So because you'd have your baseline and you could have the result that the project came in. Now, these are extremely important things in planning and areas of planning which we have systematically and continually refused to incorporate into the planning exercise. This, in the 25th anniversary of the entire decentralization experiment of Kerala, I mean, of course, we've got humongous achievements, but for us, it's about where do we go from here? How do we address the immediate problems that are facing us? For that, GIS and mapping and community engagement seems to be a very fascinating and full of probabilities, full of potential intervention that we could possibly do. It would help us move from project-based interventions into outcome-based interventions. And when it is outcome-based interventions is when the master plan, the priority action plan, the DTPs, all of these then develop in the minds of people, and understanding that this is just not about zonation and restricting and messing up with people's opportunities to go ahead and make the most of the properties that they have, which is how popular understanding of the plans are. And it is important to see that these are development tools, that these are about change and transformation and resilience. And so how do we use these tools and improve technologies which are available with us? How do we look at demystifying the very technical exercise that is the master plan process, and make it something which is owned up by local governments? We've seen, interestingly, that there have been quite a few local governments. I had an occasion to interact with the Gramin Padana Kendra, which is located in Karavalam, and which is an initiative of the local Gram Panchayat of Karavalam. But they have been, over time, they had started off with watershed, they had been into geospatial planning and GIS mapping. And today they have come out with entire GIS solutions for over 30 odd local governments who, on their own initiative, and some of these are municipalities too, on their own initiative have got this GIS mapping done. With the mobile app and Android, it has become extremely easy for us to do geotagging and getting information, digital information, and with technologies also interpreting this information. But again, we are still hitting a wall. What is that wall? To give a simple example, this is with regard to property tax. And we all know that property tax collection is suboptimal in the state, and there is not a single local body that is doing it right. And here we have information which would be able to give you a very clear sense to clean up your data, make sure that you've got, that you know exactly what you are in for. And it also helps you to go in for very easy incremental updates. So occupancy certificates, all of this would be feeding it into an information system that would enable you to actually optimize and have very clear demands. And in all probability, the own source revenue generation could go up 2 times at least. That's the kind of information we have available through the GIS network. But who's using it? And where is that point in which this information becomes something that you not just analyze, but you utilize in order to improve your performance? And that is where we are getting stuck, continually stuck. And when you think of it, the problem lies with us. And the problem lies with the fact that we create this information, we create this knowledge, but we're not disseminating it right. we are not able to communicate with the local powers that be, with the stakeholders that be, with the communities as to what this data is telling us. And it's not our fault. I mean, it's not our fault alone. It is a matter of time, because we press ourselves to deliver these things within specific time frames. And when you are curtailed by a time frame, then you are curtailed. When you cut your losses, you cut your corners, and therefore you end up not giving the entire picture. You end up not being able to assimilate. You are not able to have the full dialogue that you need to have to get communities to understand the risks that they are facing, and to look beyond their individual requirements to larger requirements of the society, of being able to understand how digital divides work, to understand how socioeconomic interventions can actually be supplemented by data that tells you what to do and where, and to assimilate that in ways which are demystified and which a Gram Sabha can actually deliberate upon. So that's the challenge which is there before us. It's a challenge that we hope we will address to a certain extent with the upcoming RKI2, the Rebuild Kerala Initiative Phase 2, which is going to take us through an intervention where we will be developing a disaster climate action tracker tool that would be outcome oriented in terms of the interventions that local governments do, and actually map just how we are working things on. And we thought it would be a good way of getting that orientation in. And we are also in the Pamba Basin. We're looking at coming across with master plans that would end up with specific projects that are generated out of the master plans. It is interesting though. We've had a pool of international experts look at the two master plans that we had worked on, and they came up with interesting observations that we would need to factor in as we move ahead. One was about the differential rate of growth of local governments and of being able to capture that. Another was also about talking about how you cannot really think even when we're thinking GIS or planning interventions, what is the region? Particularly now that we see that water systems are going to be so important to our planning processes. Then you need to understand what's going on upstream. So capturing upstream catchment trends is something that we need to now look at incorporating into planning. We have to we need to look at how can we be, how do we understand future trends? It's not enough to understand the past, but we need to understand the future and project for the future. And how can we realistically project for the future with the information we have? And what does that, and through future projections, what are the trends that we could look at? And then comes this whole question of adaptability. We have to be agile. This is the catchwords now are agility, resilience, adaptability, and a master plan by nature itself tends to be rigid and time bound. So how do we make the entire planning process agile, and how do we have GIS systems that would be able to do that? How can we get communities involved in creating these creating and using these GIS systems? Because once the community owns it, then they understand it, and then they use it, and therefore they themselves learn how to develop resilience from within. So these would be some thoughts that I would like to leave with you. Obviously, I am the how do you say, the uninitiated talking to the well-informed, but then I love to abuse my position and do that. Thank you for hearing me out. And now let me get into the official part of why you have invited me here, which is to formally announce, with all your consent, that this the inauguration of the webinar. I am very happy to see that you have put together an e-directory, because that is the way to go. And website, I've not had the opportunity of seeing your website, and I do not know how the launch is actually planned. But anything which is contemporary, a website that is contemporary will always be the need of the hour. I hope you will be able to look at revamping this at least on an annual basis, because that's how fast we are all moving in time. My best wishes to all of you on this very important occasion of the World Town Planning Day, as well as the GIS Day. So thank you once again for having me.
Thank you so much, Srimati Sharada Muralidharan, IAS, Additional Chief Secretary, LSGD, for gracing the occasion with your words of wisdom and for the powerful message you have given to us planners and the relevance of GIS in our planning interventions. I apologize, ma'am, for addressing you as doctor. As you rightly said, most of the IAS officers are doctors now. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your valuable time with us.
By the way, I meant my family, not the fraternity.
So now moving on to the next agenda, we are very fortunate to have Sri UMMER SAHIB, Director, INFORMAP Technologies Center, UAE, for his session on GIS advancement. No technical session would be more apt for today, as we are celebrating the World GIS Day, which actually falls on November 17th. So we are celebrating it in advance. Now I invite Srimati Shahana, ITPI KRC Executive Member, to introduce Sri UMMER SAHIB to the participants.
Thank you, Bindu ma'am. A very good evening to all planners. I'm extremely privileged to introduce Sri UMMER SAHIB sir, an eminent professional with 30+ years of experience in geospatial industry. Born in India, UMMER sir holds MTech in City Planning from School of Planning and Architecture, CEPT University in Ahmedabad. He is a member of Institute of Town Planners India. He also holds the position of Fellow in the Institute of Directors. UMMER sir played a dominant role in designing and developing India's first GIS and mapping software at Systems Research Institute, Pune, for Department of Electronics, Government of India. In 1989, he joined MAPS Geosystems, Sharjah, and was responsible for executing large GIS and automation and navigation data projects in Middle East, Europe, and Africa. He has been the team leader in executing GIS projects in several key organizations in the UAE, Sultanate of Oman, Saudi Arabia, Germany, Yemen, and in the Republic of Seychelles. He was a team leader in developing accident referencing and analysis system for Abu Dhabi Police and Municipality. UMMER sir has authored several research publications and has been a speaker on GPS and NFC technologies. Currently, he is the director to INFORMAP Technology Center, Sharjah, UAE. So I'm extremely delighted to hand over the dais to you.
Thank you, Shahana. Now I request Sri UMMER SAHIB to give his presentation. And the topic is of relevance to everyone, and I'm sure it is going to be very educational. Over to you, UMMER sir.
Chief guest, Madam Sharada, Mr. Chairman, dear planners, dear planning students, and all others who have joined this session. Warm greetings from Dubai. I am extremely honored and also delighted to be with you today. So when Mr. Jayakumar called me and said that I must make a talk today on GIS advancements, I was thinking about the advancement that has taken place and how many of you will already know the advancement. So what I have done is I started plotting the advancements in GIS one by one on the right side. Excuse me, am I audible? Is it okay? The presentation is, are you able to see?
Yeah, it's okay.
So,
All right. So let us start. So I started plotting. Now this is sort of my thoughts as it came. I started plotting them. You can see from the right all the advancement and the keywords that all of us are hearing. Start with a high resolution imagery, drones. Then we have communication technologies, and then edge computing, IoT, LiDAR, blockchain, 3D GIS, mobile mapping, digital twin, indoor, platform as a service, urban operating system, data science, dashboards, spatial augmented reality, visualization, geoanalytics, and living atlas. Now, all these are the key words, I would say trending nodes that all of you are on a day-to-day basis hearing in some form or the other. So many of you may be quite advanced or quite aware of these kind of technologies that are there. Some are in the process of maturing, some are very early. But I also thought that if I do a reverse termination of this technology, so I started plotting back and see where it all came from. So you can see in 1993, we had GPS. 1983, we had internet. 1973, we had mobile. And GIS and LIS in 1960, and remote sensing in 57. So at this point, it is very important to know, I don't know if many of you know about this, the father of GIS. Sir Roger Tomlinson is the father, and he is recognized as the first person to coin this word and also develop Canada Land Inventory System, Land Information System, very early in the 1960s. So in 1992, I had the opportunity to meet him in Redlands, California, and interact with him about his work and also the development that is going on. Now, as you know, around this time, also there was a lot of software development activity in the 70s in Harvard Laboratory for Computer Graphics. And this is where Jack Dangermond, the president of ESRI, was there. And the professor and the director of Systems Research Institute, Professor Krishnaya, was also there at that time as a contemporary in the Laboratory for Computer Graphics. So when he came back in the 80s to India, he set up a project. The Department of Electronics, Government of India awarded a project to this institute to develop a computer mapping system. This was way back in 1985 when I graduated from Ahmedabad School of Planning and Architecture. So I joined the team consisting of engineers from IIT, computer science engineers from IIT Mumbai, IIT Chennai, BITS Pilani. So we formed a group, and I was supposed to be the subject matter specialist to contribute about how town planning is done and what kind of software we can develop to help town planners plan. So we set out doing the work, and we developed a software, and the first software was Map Input and Display System. You would not believe that we were sitting and digitizing the map on a graph paper and then entering it in coordinates. So when Mr. Jayakumar said, okay, I must speak about advancement, I said, I was one of the very few people who got the opportunity to enter the GIS very early on in 1985. And today, I would say quite a lot of time has passed. And I'm delighted, and it's a great opportunity. And I'm delighted to speak about the advancement today. Thank you. So you see here, what is happening here is we go back, and we both go back to the time. I want to take a look at this particular slide. This is in 1283. Look at the people standing. Assume this is a midday, and the clock is striking 12. And can you believe the feeling of awe among these people and the feeling of achievement and the feeling of glory? Wow, we have able to measure time. So a mechanical clock, somebody has to go up and drive the mechanical clock, and it will strike 12. So imagine from where we have come and where we have reached. And for GIS, the time, the location, the satellite, the GPS, all these things are the essential raw materials. Now, I would say that the achievements that we have got so far has to be really felt as a real achievement, as a collective achievement, just like the people in 1283 felt when the clock was striking. So the achievement that I'm going to talk about is a collective achievement, an achievement that we as a human race is able to advance in all these fields. Now, what is a GIS system? You have all been taught that GIS is abstraction of reality. So if you look at this, you can see what we have been doing. So we have been abstracting, we have been taking a map, and we have been digitizing it. Maybe we take a 1:10,000 scale map, or a 1,000 scale map, or a 100,000 scale map, depending upon the application, and we have been abstracting. One of the first development that is happening in the GIS as a technology is going back to reality. How we can reduce the gap between the degree of abstraction and how can we model close to reality. And this is very much happening among the industry. If you look at the industry, how it is moving, industry is moving very close to reality. How can we capture reality? How can we render reality? And can we capture it at source? And this is the most important thing that is happening today. Both the industry and the professionals are requiring a great amount of details. And therefore, we are going back to identify the reality and map them. Now, why do we need to map reality? As Madam rightly mentioned, how did we arrive at this mess that we have created? Now, in order to understand the mess and in order to understand how it happened, it is important that we have the reality mapped as it unfolds and also augment it in order to amplify it and in order to underline the issue altogether to a completely different audience. And also there is a great amount of advancement in retrospective. Now, when I say retrospective, any decision that we make is not judged as we make it. It is judged in retrospect. So good or bad doesn't appear to us as we make the decision, starting from even personal basis. When my friend called me and said I was in Expo 2020 and I took a Pepsi and now I am ill. So as he took Pepsi, he did not realize that he is going to get ill. So the decision that we make is in retrospect. Good or bad is judged. Therefore, we need to have the possibility to go back and see where did we come from? How did we create this mess? Where exactly did we go wrong? So we are going to recreate what has happened before. And as Madam rightly said, extrapolate it. Do we have sufficient data points so that we can predict it? We can predict what is going to happen if we continue at this particular stage. So even we have climate change and COP 21 happening there, and also a lot of talk about how we can achieve the net zero, or how we can roll back to 1.5 degrees centigrade, reducing it. So it is very important that we capture the reality as it is. And I must say, this is one of the advancements that is happening today. Also, when you look at the customers, the audience, the users who are going to use GIS, if you look at their behavior, there has been a significant change. They are not tolerant, and they want all the details, and they don't want how it works, and they want accurate, and they don't want error. What COVID has made them is to a little bit more tolerant, because COVID positive, when we say this is false positive, then they say, yeah, this is okay. So they are only tolerant when there is an advantage for them to say that false positive, yes, this is possible. Yeah. So you have end users who want to have it served to them, and even they are not willing to absorb even the minor mistakes that can happen in the GIS. If they don't see a road, if they don't see something, they have complained. So the complaint is non-proportional to the goodness that they see. If one mistake they see it in the GIS, they would say everything is a mistake. But all the right that they see it, they don't feel appreciated on that. So this is the first thing that I would like to underline. Now let's look at what's happening from the various position to precision. So the geospatial industry is right now moving, as I told you, more reality, capturing reality. Now, if you look at this, it's very clear that architecture, mining, indoor positioning, land administration is going at centimeter level, whereas navigation land use are going at 10-meter level, and the healthcare and asset management are becoming at 1 meter, and then you have millimeter accuracy. So the precision at which we are, and the industry is moving to capture reality, this is a kind of precision. I also wish to point out to Madam that all the time I wonder why our property documents in Kerala and in possession certificate, we start using hectares. So I think it's high time that we must use a different unit of measurement for users, owners to understand their land area. Maybe certain area can be in hectares, certain area in acres, and the area has to be articulated in meters. And I would say that this needs a very serious consideration. Let's move to what I am going to talk today in the process flow. GIS process has advanced to capture in near real time and carry it. So the data that we capture in real time or near real time has to be carried or transmitted to the storage space where it is in a, conventionally it is an SQL database. Now what is emerging is a no SQL database. The data comes into a cloud and then it gets analyzed and then it gets visualized and then shared. So in the coming slides, I am going to focus on each of this process flow to explain to you what advancement has taken in each of this. Also, I must mention to you about the fourth industrial revolution. And this is another word that has been increasingly being used, which is a fusion of AI and IoT and machine learning and all those things, which we will look and touch upon. Now, I must say within this short time, each of these trends that I showed you, the trending nodes, each of them require a special 2 hours of lecture by itself. So it is very difficult to explain all those things during this time. But I would just introduce you to all this terminology, and then I will be able to demonstrate some of the videos. The first thing is digital data capture. Now, what has happened in digital data availability is there is ready off-the-shelf products available for you to acquire. It has become extremely easy. If you look at the satellite imagery that are available today, they are of 30 centimeter. You have the terrain, you have the digital surface model, you have the terrain model, the building data 3D, and also radar, whereby it can penetrate and you are able to see the picture in terms of cloud and so on and so forth. Now, what I would like to do now is to show you a demo of what is happening in the satellite industry.
"30cm. See the world more clearly with the highest resolution commercially available in the world. Resolution matters, especially when feature identification is part of your mission. The greater the resolution, the more details you can make out on the ground. With the launch of WorldView 3, Digital Globe can now provide customers with up to 30cm resolution. In the civil government space, this aids in more accurate and automated land use land cover mapping and allows for improved change detection. In the location-based services industry, greater detail supports the creation of more complete maps, allowing for better recognition of features. And for energy providers, higher resolution provides more accurate monitoring of pipeline assets or construction areas, helping you to do your job more efficiently and effectively. 30cm resolution is just one of the latest innovations from Digital Globe, creating better technology for you.
I would like to now show you something in real. Here, how productization helped us. This is the Digital Globe's coverage. And you are able to access this, and you are able to see this. Each of this imagery what is the lineage of it, what is the cloud cover, and you can see here, this is 35 centimeter. So you are able to see where is the imagery, you are able to sort it, and you are able to say each imagery, each tile, you can identify your area of interest, and you are able to turn it on and see the latest imagery that are there. That's available. So you are able to really go ahead and identify the imagery that you want, and you are able to acquire it depending upon your requirement. So this is what I call as productization of satellite imagery. Similarly, ESRI has now provided what is called as a living atlas. Now in this living atlas, you are able to see on the left side the imagery that are available readily online, and also on the right side you have another set of imagery. So you can turn on the permutation and combination, and then you are able to see the change that has happened. Now I am showing Trivandrum Airport and the runway, and you are able to see the change that has happened from 2014 to 2019. So this is available in the Living Atlas of ESRI, and you are able to see very clearly. You can turn on another imagery and you see what has happened. So the question of how did we arrive at this mess can be partially answered through this kind of retrospective. So this is what I call retrospect. Just go back and see what has really happened. Now the Living Atlas also allows you to have various other layers that can be superimposed. I would like to also show you some imagery of Dubai and see what has happened and how it looks like. Now, I have been part of this kind of aerial photography missions way back when I was working in MAPS Geosystems. And then you can see the various imagery. You can see how on the left side that was there in 1986. This was Sheikh Zayed Road. And you can see on the right what is the situation currently. Similarly, you are able to see the aerial view and the skyscrapers. You see the Sheikh Zayed Road here. You are able to see this very clearly, how it has happened. It's between day and night, what you see here, how much development has taken place and where it has developed and how it has developed. So you are able to see this. This is Burj Khalifa, and you can see the enormous development that has taken place here. So this kind of technology, again, going back to identify the mess that we have made or the good that we have made, we are able to see. This is what I call a retrospect. Now I would like to go back to the presentation. Are you able to see the slides now?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. So we looked at the availability of 30 centimeter imagery. And then this is the specification of this imagery. Now, if you look at this imagery, the ground sampling distance is 50 centimeters to 15 centimeters you have. The accuracy, you can see 5 meters and 2 meters. So the cloud cover you can define, and you can also say what kind of nadir that you want. So if you want to have a collect, you can readily ask the company to collect it. So this is what I call as productization. Now we move. So I showed you the Cochin 30 centimeter and the Trivandrum change because I didn't want to change too much from this to the real demo. So that's why I showed you in one go. There is also another website called planet.com. And what they provide is near real-time imagery. So if you want at a very high resolution, they are able to provide you the imagery. Now let's move to the most spoken word now, the catchword, digital twin. Now what is digital twin? And many of you have heard about BIM, Building Information System.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, sorry to interrupt, sir. We are unable to see the slides, sir. We are able to see the Sheikh Zayed Road imagery.
Oh, I see. All right. Are you able to see it now?
Yes, sir.
Thank
you, sir.
So I will roll back to the 2-3 slides before. Yeah. Did you see this? Did you get the chance to see this slide?
No, sir.
All right. And so I must start from here, repeat from here, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So from here, we went to explaining about the various resolutions of imagery that are available to use. And then we move to digital twin. So what is a digital twin? And how is it different from BIM? So we are moving from a BIM to what is called as geo-digital twin. Now in digital twin, you create the virtual representation, which is exactly mirroring the object reality relationships and behaviors. So we are modeling the built environment from the concept to its demolition. So in the case of a city, when you are planning the city or when you are making a concept model, much before master planning, where you have a structural plan. So from the structured planning, you are having some kind of a digital twin created, and then you keep on adding on top of it. And then you are able to model it in 4D, which would mean X, Y, Z, and time. So you are storing all the data, you are receiving the real-time data, you are able to see the historic data. So in a digital twin, it's virtual, spans the entire life cycles, it receives the data in real time, and it has connected sensors. The sensors, IoT, Internet of Things sensors, are collecting data through a carrier. It is pushed at set intervals. And what it does is, it also understands the exceptions, programmed exceptions. So it sends you an alert. There's a dashboard, and in the dashboard, you are able to see the alert, which are programmed exceptions. It also has a prediction engine or a simulation engine that uses the AI and machine learning, and you are able to understand and reason current and future performance of what if I do this. So this is pretty much what is happening in the smart cities and the dashboards, and what IBM and other companies have implemented in Rio and in other cities, in Barcelona, and also in Dubai. This kind of digital twins are created. And through this digital twin, you are able to understand, and you are able to predict, and you are able to do analysis to find out what has gone wrong, or as the digital twin takes shape, you are able to tweak them and understand how and why something is happening. Now we go to the next data capture advancement, which is drone mapping. You must be very familiar with this word drone mapping, and all of you must have seen quite a few videos of drone mapping. Now, there are various benefits in drone mapping. If you have a drone, it is very cost effective. You can own a drone. And by the way, my company, INFORMAP, has got the license. We are one of the very few companies who have the drone license to operate a drone. So you can own a drone, you can operate it, you can lease it. You can very quickly deploy it. You can use it in emergency. You can capture it on the same day, which is real time or near real time. You can monitor the flood or as the event unfolds. And also you can map very, very difficult areas where there is impossible for humans to go and do the survey, like forest or ravines. And also the spatial resolution. You can capture it pretty high, and also safely you can operate it. So I want to show you a demonstration of drone. Let me see if I can do that.
From mining to construction, topographical surveying is essential for getting the job right. The rise of drone technology is changing the way surveying is done, making it accessible to a wide range of industries. Drones offer enormous opportunities for surveyors and GIS professionals. With the help of drones, it is possible to carry out surveys and process and deliver surveying data in a timely, accurate, and safe way. Using drones for surveying and mapping has many advantages. Time saving. Traditional surveys can take days, if not weeks. With the power of drones, a survey can be completed in hours, and the collected data and imagery can be processed on the same day. This means that you spend less time in gathering data and taking the right decisions. Cost effective. The acquisition and operating cost of a drone survey is much lower than that of surveys through satellites and manned aircraft. The technical requirements for the site and personnel are also low, and the daily maintenance is simple. These factors eventually reduce the cost of data acquisition. Accessibility. With the help of drones, you can easily survey those areas that are otherwise difficult or even impossible to access. For cliffs, rugged terrain, and other areas where conventional surveying is challenging and time-consuming, drones offer a great advantage. Accuracy. Some of the most important parameters of surveying are spatial resolution and low-altitude multi-angle shooting. The spatial resolution can reach decimeters or even centimeters and can be used to construct accurate digital models and 3D landscape maps. Safety. Land surveying can be a risky job. Drones eliminate the need for surveyors to explore unknown terrain and can be helpful in avoiding high-risk places such as railway lines and rocky terrains.
All right, everyone, welcome to today's webinar. It's on how to pick the right drones for mapping and surveying. I'm Kerry Garrison, the Vice President of
Well, we are back to the drone mapping benefits. Are you able to see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so we move on. Now we come to indoor. Now in indoor mapping, there are different ways that one can map the indoors. The first one is called indoor positioning, whereby user is able to see on an indoor map position of a store or a facility, such as a washroom or a prayer room or something inside. So the user is provided a map on the mobile, and they are able to search for a store or a facility, and the indoor map is able to show the position. Now, if you look at the navigation, indoor navigation, this means that you are able to see the blue dot, and you are able to ask to show the destination point, and the app is able to show you how to reach a particular store from the point where you are standing at that moment of time. We have done this kind of maps for Burj Al Arab, Souk Madinat Jumeirah, and other indoor facilities. Now in this, what we have done, we have walked the entire indoor area, and we have created a meter resolution data, which involves collecting using a mobile phone, lot of details, the radiometric details and all those kind of details that we are capturing. And then we are giving it to an indoor system that would compute in real time and identify the position of your mobile phone and the search in the facility. And then we are able to show you the progress as you walk from your mall position to a facility. Now here, the challenge is very close areas, domes and so on and so forth. There would be some kind of a blind spot, and this can be overcome by having more densified points there. So we are able to do this indoor map for major facilities. Now this is all for brownfield, which means a building which is already existing, a brownfield technology. But if you have a greenfield, meaning a building is going to be built, a new shopping mall is going to build, and if you have incorporated indoor navigation or mobile positioning, what one can do is to have these kind of beacons. These are Bluetooth beacons. This can be placed in all over the mall, and these Bluetooth beacons can provide the position of a particular mobile phone. Now, this kind of beacons and gateways and also Wi-Fi or using LAN, this data is pushed to the backend server and the position is computed. Now, this kind of technology is also used outdoors. For example, in a construction site, we did some interesting projects when the project required X number of carpentry man hours or X number of masons. The project manager all of a sudden realizes that the allocated resources he is running out. So what happened to the worker? Is the worker not Is the worker not utilized? Or is the worker not working? So what we have done is provide a beacon right on the helmet. And in that beacon, we are able to identify where exactly is the worker in the event of evacuation or emergency, or plain to find out if the guy is sedentary. In better words, if he is sleeping, or if he is resting, or if he is simply not working. So we are able to provide an alert to say that this guy is fooling around, he's just sitting in somewhere and not working. Now, this is enormous advantage to not only the project managers to identify and to better control the resources. Now, there is another side for it about worker safety. And now the main point is worker safety. If the worker is sedentary or not available for a longer period of time, one can go ahead and look for him, what has happened to him. Has he kept the helmet somewhere and is he absconding? Or is he not there? So this kind of technology can be very effectively being used in indoor mapping and indoor navigation. Now, what is interesting is on the indoor visitor analysis. Now, in this, we are able to do the count. For example, if this is an indoor map inside a mall, the mall is able to identify the visitor counts that are passing through a particular store, and the mall is able to charge the tenant more depending upon the number of footfalls that they are having in those stores. So this kind of possibility is there, and also the duration of stay. Now, these indoor maps can be also used outdoors in construction site, in other monitoring places where you are able to use this technology to effectively monitor them. Now, let me show you something very interesting, which is indoor reality capture. Now, in this one, what you can see is a wearable device and a mobile device. Now, this very interesting equipment that I have been evaluating on how we can use this for doing the indoor map. So this creates reality at a very, very high resolution. So you can wear this device, you can walk at the speed, at a certain speed, and all the details are captured. This is for built environments. You can also have a mobile mapping vehicles whereby you are able to move. Now, let me show you let me show you how these, what is the output of these kind of systems. Oops. This is the output of this kind of system, whereby you will see how a built environment, are you able to see?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now you will see these are point clouds. What these equipments are doing, what this technology is doing is creating a point cloud. And these clouds are geo-referenced, and inside the built environment, you are able to model the reality as it exists.
Navis Indoor Viewer is a powerful visualization technology for indoor spaces. Here you can see the entrance to the auditorium at the Technical University of Munich with both high-resolution panoramic images, a 3D model, and a 2D map generated by a Navis scan. You can navigate the indoor model of the building through the 2D floor plan and see that the panoramic images shift as you move through the building. This model is precisely located within a broader map of the area.
I think this is enough. So we move on to my back to the slides. Yep. Now let's look at the sensors. What all can the sensor capture? Now I let you look at the screen. Are you able to see the screen? Yeah?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now let's see all the things that we can capture, we can measure, we can sense is portrayed here. This is from a company called Libelium in Spain. Now you see how each and every object on the ground can be measured, can be sensed. Now let's start with air pollution. Now you are able to see how carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and even LPG, if there is a leakage, is able to be measured. Forest fire, even wine quality. There's a lot of demand for this kind of equipment to monitor the soil moisture. And also sportsman care, structural health of the buildings. So you are able to identify the shake or some kind of movement. And you have also the movement of the ships. And you can see quite a lot of things can be sensed using IoT sensors. So we provide this kind of sensors. And we are able to identify a lot of things and get real data to the server. Now you see here, you have traffic congestion can be identified. The radiation levels in a nuclear plant can be identified. Smart lighting, intelligent shopping, noise, water leakage, vehicle diagnosis, waste management. When the bin is full, it is able to send an alert to the company who is doing the waste management that these bins are going to be about full, and you are able to do the routing of the vehicle to go and pick up and empty those bins. So this kind of IoT, Internet of Things, is being used, and this I would say is quite a significant advancement where your GIS system is able to get real time or near real time. When I say near real time, there is a slight delay, but you are able to get this data and you are able to analyze them as it comes. Now let's look at the next one. This is what is called the IoT ecosystem. Now in the IoT ecosystem, what you need is, you need the sensors to capture data. You need the carrier. In the first one of the slides that I showed you, that after capturing the data, you need to push it. Somebody has to carry this data to store it. So you have different kind of carriers that can either push the data to near or wide or long range. And also you need the platforms. And here, the emerging method is to use platform as a service. And there are a number of vendors who are providing this platform. So you can use this platform push the data using the carrier, and you are able to do the analysis. You are able, the platform is able to provide you with a dashboard. And this dashboard has alerts, exception alerts. Now, if you look at what GIS needs, it requires, this is the ideal combination: low cost, low power, long range, and high bandwidth. But something like that is very, very difficult and very expensive. So this is not coming. There is some compromise that one has to do. So you have Sigfox technology that is coming. I think in India also it is being implemented. In several countries, Sigfox as a carrier is being used. It's an LP WAN. It is low cost, low power, wide area, but very low data bandwidth. So using Sigfox on a temperature sensor or a flood monitoring device, you are able to collect the water level and transmit it over a very long distance. But its data bandwidth, for example, is very low. It has just up to 12 bytes. And it can send only six messages per hour, but it is very low and it consumes very, very low energy. So if you have a flood monitor, if you want to have a flood monitor or a water level monitor in all the rivers in various places, then these sensors are able to collect the data, and the battery in that device can last for quite a long time. You're talking about 2 to 3 years, because it sleeps. The behavior of the device is it normally sleeps in deep sleep, it conserves the energy, it wakes up only at 2 times. Once when it identifies an exception, the device identifies an exception. You have said that if the water level is more than this particular height, then consider it as an exception. So it is directly sending the data. Or every let us say 10 minutes, if you say 6 messages per hour, every 10 minutes it is able to poll and it is able to send the data. Now 4G and 5G, it offers an enormous advantage whereby the data, it is CAT, M1 is there, you have CAT1 there, and UAE is going to stop 2G end of 2022. The 2G won't be available, so we are moving to 4G. So all the devices are going to have 4G connection. And with 5G, you have narrowband, NB-IoT is possible, and you are able to have consume very less power, and you are able to send the data. So the challenge in cellular is it consumes very high power. The GSM itself consumes very high power, but the 4G with CAT1 and CAT-M1, there is little bit variation in this. One consumes very low power, and also NB-IoT. And many of the devices are coming in this kind of, using this kind of carriers. So you can use this and you are able to send the data as and when you need it. In other places, for example, monitoring the ships or monitoring the food that is there in the containers, you are able to provide. In fact, we are providing a portable temperature and humidity sensor. So when blood is taken sample, particularly for AIDS test, when the blood sample is taken and it is sent to another country for testing, then what we do is we provide a portable sensor, and this is put inside that, and it is stored in that particular sensor. And when the blood reaches the destination, they are able to take the device, plug it into the USB port, and is able to see what is the temperature that this particular item or blood has gone through during its journey. So when you are getting your food or when you are getting your material, you are able to see what temperature it has been subjected to. So this kind of technology, this kind of sensing technology allows you, and there is quite a lot of applications that can be done with this kind of technology. Now what is happening, there is a lot of move from control center computing to the device itself. This is what is called edge computing. Now in an edge computing, in the normal computing, the sensor collects the data, it uses a carrier, it sends it to the control center. The control center identifies, in the case of a irrigation system. So you have the lawns, you are collecting from all the public lawns, you have a sensor system. The sensor comes to the control center identifies the moisture is not sufficient, and then it turns on the sprinkler. And it turns it on as long as it is required. So your water is very optimally used and not wasted. Now what is happening is, from the control room or from the platform, it is moving to the edge, which is the IoT device itself. So the sensors and the actuators are able to speak with each other. They can communicate. This is a true IoT application, whereby the edge itself identify the temperature of the soil, the moisture of the soil, and then it is able to also, it provides, it's a collaborative way it operates. The edge is able to talk to another IoT device. For example, here the sprinkler, and it is able to, hey, come on, turn it on. Now the problem here, in this kind of IoT talking to each other without coming to the control center, is somebody hacks it. So the only problem is hacking. Somebody is hacking it and then making the sprinklers on for all the time and creating a flood. So this is a problem with this kind of things. But if you are able to effectively control and secure and operate in a secure environment, you are able to do quite a lot of things. Location can come from a GPS, camera lens acts as the eyes, microphone like the ears, and the sense probe can even smell. In the case of LPG or any other gas emission, we are able to see. Sometimes we are able to identify the smoke, and then we are able to either make an alarm so that somebody can go and turn on, or we are able to send an exception alert, or we are able to say some danger is going on there. So this kind of edge computing is very much becoming a reality, whereby you are able to use this. Actually, we did a project in Delhi where we put very, very long range cameras, and the Delhi municipality, Delhi corporation, does not want in the Chandni Chowk area to have any more construction. So what we did was we put very large high focus cameras, and then we are able to subtract each image as it comes in, and we are able to detect any construction activity. And then we are able to say, listen, there is some kind of construction activity. So somebody can go and check. So mostly this happens at night, whereby people bring, and all of a sudden in 2-3 days, there's a new structure that is coming up. So you are able to effectively monitor through this kind of sensors. Now, so where do we store all this data? Conventionally, in a classical GIS, all the data are relational data. The data that are going to come to our servers, we know pretty much, and it has a predefined schema. But in the latest digital twin and all these kind of IoT sensors and mobile operators going and collecting the data, So from the field survey, you get the data. From the air quality, you get the data. Your IoT sensors are pumping a lot of data. Your water level is coming. A lot of IoT sensors are collecting. Your CCTV is coming. All these data are quite different. Now, there has to be a certain process. And many of the data are predefined. No, not predefined. They don't have a structure. They don't have a schema. So what do you do with this? So all this data is coming to what I call as a data lake. So in a lake, as you know, all kinds of things can come, even dead animals can come sometime, but the lake is able to absorb all of them. The silt comes, the soil comes, the trees come, the waste comes, somebody floating comes, so all kinds of things. Similarly, in data storage, the advancement that is going on is to a non-relational database. It is called NoSQL. And there are several databases that are there for NoSQL storage, which is MongoDB, Elasticsearch. We are using Elasticsearch very effectively because we have a huge volume of data. We get approximately a terabyte of data because there are thousands and thousands of vehicles and people who are going around the city. And we get this data. Now, when we get this data at every 30 seconds or every 10 seconds, this is near real-time data. We need to store them. So how do you store them? You store them in a NoSQL database. And then you are able to do some kind of analysis using that NoSQL database. So this is what is happening in the cloud. So you have a cloud, which is a data lake, and all kinds of data you are able to ingest. Now, once you have the data, now look at all that is happening in the data management. This is a new science, data science is coming up. Now you can see all kinds of management trend, what's happening. You have the visualization as quite high important. You have the self-service business intelligence. You have the analysis, you have agile business intelligence development. You have data governance, whereby there's a blockchain, predictive analysis, mobile business intelligence, collaboration and storytelling. And so all these are happening in the data management. And quite a lot of things happen in the data management. And I'm sure that you will be able to go and research these kind of things and see more. Now here we come to analysis. So we went through data capture in real time, near real time, and then we learned how we are going to store it, and now we are coming to analysis. Now you have the data coming from NoSQL data, for example, or non-relational data. You need to ingest, and you need to alert in the event of exceptions, and you need to analyze it. Now, the data comes near real time, over time. So you have analysis over time, which is a kind of time series analysis to find out what has happened. So let's look at the various analysis that one can do. You can do object tracking. You can do spatial temporal outliers. So these are hotspots. Say, for example, in a place where you are going to have in a shopping mall in the indoor mapping, you want to identify hotspots where there are a lot of people clustering around, or you want to do classification from the LiDAR data, and you want to identify what kind of crop it is. For example, we did a project for the European Union in Portugal, whereby the farmers are applying for what is called as subsidy. So if they grow an olive plant, they get some kind of a subsidy. But of course, everywhere people try to fool the government. So what you are going to do is you are going to take the satellite imagery and you are able to identify if this particular farmer's claim is correct or if it is a false claim. So you are able to identify, overlay the land parcel on top of the classified crop. And you are able to say, hey, you are not growing, by the way, I'm sorry, there is no olive on your farm, but you are making a subsidy claim. We need to send you an inspector to see if you are indeed growing olive. So I just want to give you some to open up your mind as the kind of applications that you can do with this kind of things. Now, the real advancement is happening on the object extraction. So building geometry can be extracted, rivers, roads, trees, power, pipeline, all these objects from a high resolution imagery, you are able to extract them. You are able, or you're also able to do sort of alert. For example, ETA for forecasting, expected time of arrival forecasting for a bike, for goods or wind. If somebody is waiting near the bus stand, you are able to do some kind of announcement saying that your bus is going to arrive in 2 minutes. And the passenger who is going to board, who is waiting, is able to see on a real-time monitor where exactly the bus has reached. Or for tourism, or for a person who is traveling in the bus, he is able to see when his destination is going to come. Now also instance segmentation. In the instance segmentation, you are able to identify objects, not only objects, you are able to identify whether there is a pollution, whether there is some kind of illegal fisheries, and you are able to do more segmentation. For example, you are not only able to do human from the object, you are able to also describe that particular object. That is why you are able to do instant segmentation. So this is a ship, or this is a boat, or this is a fishing trawl, some kind of object instance you can segment. And again, you are able to get more into the grade of data that you are going to get from this. The granularity of the data that you are going to analyze, you are able to get it. Change detection. This I showed you how you can do change detection, either through the satellite imagery on the online catalog, or from what I gave you the example of Delhi, whereby you are able to get from the video image subtraction. 3D object classification you are able to do, whereby you are able to get a digital surface model, not a terrain model, but a surface model, which means it is going to add the terrain plus whatever you are able to see the built environment. So from that, you are able to identify the buildings and you are able to classify them. So let's move on. I have taken 2 slides from the 2021 ESRI conference, just to show you what kind of systems are available, what is happening, what is the direction in which the GIS technology is provided for the city planners. Now, I must tell you that all these videos and all those things that I am showing is only intended for illustration purpose, not to induce you, not to ask you to buy or anything. Okay, so it's only for illustration. So now, if you look at the Arcgis urban system, this is intended for urban planners. You can see pretty much how you can sketch the buildings, how you are able to see the dark mode, how you are able to do the skyline profile, all those things. So you can search ArcGIS Urban and you are able to see how this ArcGIS extension helps you to do many of the things that you wanted to do. Now, finally, visualization. You have story maps. Most advanced things that I must say is dashboards, whereby you are able to see on the dashboard situation analysis, whereby real-time situations are coming to the control room and you are able to see, and also instant apps, whereby through the mobile apps, even the citizen or the resident is able to see as an effective warning system, or you are able to make the citizen as part of the GIS, as Madam rightly said, that you are able to identify the potholes, you are able to identify any event is happening so that the citizen can identify the location, make a short video or a photograph and able to send it to the system, whereby these are ingested and analyzed. Now I want to talk about, at the end of the day, for whom are we making this? We are making this for the citizens. We are making it for the residents. Now, at the end of the day, this is where the tire meets the road. This is where they feel that something is happening. So what are the development that is happening in this user experience? So more and more, we need to have the experience given to the end users. So today, you are able to share the maps for location, navigation, and home delivery. And GIS has been used by people without even knowing that they are using GIS technology. Now in Dubai, we use a virtual addressing system called Makani. It is a 10-digit number, and you can see the number. This kind of plate is affixed on every single building in Dubai. The idea here is anybody can scan that and share it. So this 10-digit is a unique numbering system. It is called Makani. And this kind of plate is there everywhere. So in case of a fire, in case of a food order, you just simply scan it and you are able to share it. Now this is based on a military grid system. The original system is 14 characters. The first 4 characters identifies the UTM zone, and the 10 characters identify the exact coordinates. So using Makani, you are able to identify the exact gate, access point to a particular building. Now this is very important in terms of even delivery. You can use Google Map, but Google Map is not intended for last mile usage. So we also provide a system so that in a building, you may have 4 entrances. So in which entrance is your flat located? So by giving an entrance a unique location, a unique point, you are able to drive the fire engine or the ambulance or a delivery boy right at the correct entrance, so that the last mile is the one that takes a lot of time. And this can be speeded up. Now, QR code is very important, and this is being used extensively in all the places. Now, for land transactions, data governance. So here, the use of blockchain is used for, I will see if I can get the time, I can demonstrate for you how Dubai is using a blockchain as a ledger in order to have all the transactions validated, and it is stored in a safe way. So property owners are given a map. They can go and see their parcel map. They can see their document. They are able to see on a GIS system where exactly their plot lies. And even the land department provides the pricing. What kind of pricing, what is the value of that particular property. Now, incidents. Here, the end users have a better experience. When they get a traffic fine, We do get a lot of traffic fines, by the way. We are a fine city. so you get a lot of traffic fines, and you are able to see where exactly you have got the fine. What is the point at which you have got the fine? Sometimes the segmentation is done. By the way, when you change the lane without an indicator, you make it a fine. So this kind of segmentation is done, but the users doesn't have a clue what technology is being used. But at the same time, they are able to understand. Now, how does the department use these points? Now, we have done a project for Abu Dhabi Municipality and Traffic Department to identify where traffic accidents takes place. Where is the slippery road, for instance? What kind of treatment can be given for this kind of, we do sliding scale analysis to find out each segment of the road. We use a roving window to identify where exactly this is happening. Also, in digital twin, you have the georeferences, georeference drawings. I'm sorry, I've taken only one more slide. So here, you have the geospatial technology trends, and here you have the future. What I have spoken as until now is fact, it's happening. But most of the advancement speakers speak about fiction. And here, I don't want you to not to have that fiction. Now, if you look at the yellow part, this is fiction. And if you look at the IoT, you have the smart desk. Now, these are very, very tiny sensors. They have the power, they are autonomous, they are able to collect the data, and they are able to send it. So, since this slide will be available, please go ahead and have a look at the fiction part, which is the future. This is done by the Geospatial Data Commission of UK, and they have identified the current technology, the emerging, and the future. I have covered pretty much most of the emerging technology, but the futures, I leave it to you to explore. Now, this is my last slide. Now, look at it. All this technology and advancement follows what Gartner calls as a hype cycle curve. Now, in this hype cycle curve, you have the technology trigger, and then you have inflated expectations. So much so that somebody is telling that the satellite can see my swimming pool. Now, that's an inflated expectation. So some people come and ask me, you provide satellite imagery, but can you provide satellite imagery that I can see what is happening? But this is coming. This is coming. Now, if you look at the futures, it is forecasted that this kind of persistent satellite Earth observation is possible. Then you have a trough of disillusionment. Then you have an enlightenment, and then you have plateau of productivity. So these words are self-explanatory. Now, what I want to point out to you is when you look at electricity, when you use a power switch, do you really worry about the complexity involved in production, distribution, and supply? No. You simply turn it on. You see the green light, and you see the red light. So this technology, what I call, has become ubiquitous. You don't notice it. Now, this is what is happening to GIS technology. So we said the father of GIS started in 1960, and now we are in 1921. So you have something like 60 years, what is happening. And GIS technology and location is represented as a balloon for the common man. So this is where I would like to stop. So it is becoming ubiquitous. It is dissolved in most of the data capture. All sectors, everything that is captured today has got a location component in it. Without me knowing it, without the end user knowing it, that component is there. And soon, Already you are seeing that in many of the places, you simply see a balloon and that's it. So thank you very much. And I want to point out to you that it's our duty as an Indian citizen to have this kind of sessions. And I must applaud ITPI Kerala chapter to have this kind of sessions and fulfilling their duty. I would also like to mention here the Dubai rulers quote, perfection has no finishing line. There is also another advancement among the users. We are living in a world of rateocracy. By the way, this is a recognized word called rateocracy. So when mama asks the child, how is the food? How is the vegetable curry? They would say, well, 3 out of 10. So they're very precise in their rating. So even people, when you say, how are you? More and more, we are moving to a rateocracy, where instead of telling fine, or we say how much fine, how fine is fine enough, or how much fine am I? So you may say, well, I am 7 out of 10 now. So with this, I stop and thank you very much for hearing me out. It's a pleasure to be with you and present my research and finding of and experience, share my experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Umar. It was a wonderful session. We all from bottom of our heart, we really appreciate you for such a nice presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Sri Umar Sahib sir, for that amazing presentation. Now the floor is open for discussion with the participants. I request the participants to either unmute your audio and video and interact with the speaker, or you can type your questions in the chat box. We also request you to fill up the feedback forms shared in the chat box. Now to lead the discussions and moderate the discussions, I invite Sri Rajesh PM. He is the Senior Town Planner and Executive Member of Kerala Regional Chapter. Now the floor is yours, Rajesh sir.
Good evening to you all. It was a really informative and excellent presentation in detail what we have, what the world is doing towards GIS. We have a lot of members who have been dedicated in working in GIS as planners, contributed to different levels of services to the government and in the private institutions. We would like to harness that in our state to evolve methods and improve our standards in GIS. The challenge is to use GIS and to utilize generally for the general public how it can be made useful. So now earlier there was a lot of time that has been spent for acquiring the data, processing the data. Now there is a lot of options available to take a lot of data from the off the shelf, and excellent methods and accuracy that has been devised, that has been explained by Umar Sahib sir. And I open for a few questions. We will have, as we already reached almost 8:45, we will have a 10 minutes to 15 minute session. If there is any questions, the people can, the participants can raise their hand in the chat box and then unmute. And if there are similar questions, that can be joined together and can be deliberated. Thank you, sir.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask one thing, actually. I mean, I really...
Before going ahead, please introduce yourself.
I'm Ajit Pandey here. I'm a professor of architecture, and I'm architect from CEPT, where Sir was also, he mentioned, I was very happy to hear that. And I'm teaching in architectural institution and taking design studios. Actually, basically, I just wanted to, ask a question, although I enjoyed the program very much. But see, when will we be having reading material and publications, in printed form, which can actually make the people aware of the entire thing and introduce them into GIS technology. Because there are, it is such a huge field that you can go into one aspect, second aspect, there are million aspects that you can go to. So, for example, as an architectural professor, basically, you see, if I want to actually encourage my students to understand this particular aspect, so what is the kind of reading material? See, we are actually short of nice, readable, friendly reading material, and that is the need of the hour. I think if we can do it, it will be very good. Something on the lines of, like, for instance, earlier the computer, when it started becoming popular, there used to be a series, for example, DOS for idiots, for example, something like that, so that in simple language, in a very simplified way, any person could be initiated, and sort of, that's what I am requesting. Can there be an effort for that?
Is there any similar questions? If in that line, you can, participants can tell. Otherwise, Umar will be replying to that.
Yeah. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, Umar. How are you? This is Ravi.
Can you please on your video also?
One second, please. Yeah, it's not getting okay. Is it started?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Umar. This is Ravi. How are you? In fact, Umar has been my classmate in so my question, a very small question. I've been posting a lot of questions on the chat. You must have seen data lake related to data lake, etc. My question, Umar, is when would be a situation where the planners become real mathematicians to prepare models to be able to use the precision data that which is being made available by different sources. Data is in abundance today. It's available in every corner, and some of the data or each data may be useful to purposes of planning. And when will the planners get into a situation where they are developers of the model to exploit this data to a specific purpose? May it be master planning, or may it be development plans, etc. When will we see a situation a planner is intelligent enough to make use of this data for purpose of effective planning? That's my first question. And enormous amount of modeling, data modeling is needed. And how would the planners fraternity would feel that the skills needed to be updated with reference to newer data sources and newer data portfolio that which needed to be used for purposes of making a better cities and better plans and a better proposition for society in general, because everything runs around data nowadays.
I think Umar Sahib can respond to these two questions, and then we'll go ahead with the next.
Well, to the first question about the reading materials, I would say there is a geographic network, and there is quite a few reading materials, sir. I must tell you, in GIS in particular, there is EURISA, there is ESRI has got a lot of publications, and there are a lot of courses that they do all the time. These courses are free, and you are welcome. The students are welcome to take these courses, and there is quite a lot of materials available online. Now, talking to Mr. Ravi, he asked. By the way, I must tell you that he is working in IBM, and he has been in urban operating system, and he has been he has a lot of experience in IoT and all these kind of things. Well, what he asked is more of a question that we need to debate. How would planners use this? Now, in my presentation, I showed you the living atlas, the data availability, and how this data can be used, how this data can be immediately sourced if necessary. Now, how can it be modeled? Well, I think if somebody from the Kerala chapter is able to enlighten as to how this is modeled, because in Dubai, I can explain that it is very intensively used and it is modeled. But I think it would be better if somebody from the ITPI Kerala chapter can answer this question. And when and why, in terms of what are the challenges that you are facing, so that we are able to suggest some ideas in order for the planners to use it.
Presently, actually, we have the land use board and the remote sensing agency, which is looking after most of the GIS applications and requirements. But there is a lot of requirements at the lower level, at the local body level, and at the block level. There is a lot of information that is required for analyzing and unifying this. In continuation to that, the government has taken a decision to create a task force to look into these kind of aspects, and then create a platform where it is being thought about of having an urban observatory where we'll have a lot of standards that can be devised on, because most of the standards are already available, but different standards are being used by different agencies. We want to have a particular type of standard, or in which each agency can produce data, put into a platform wherein all others can see the data, use that data for different applications. That is what we have been thinking about. I think Mayuri has a question. She has raised a hand. You can ask the question.
Let me answer one point before somebody else, just to conclude it. In Dubai, just to answer Ravi's question, in Dubai, there is a data platform called Dubai Pulse. What is done here is, it is a collaboration of all the government departments, whereby all the government departments put their data in the data pulse. It's a big data. And in this big data, there is a certain amount of data given to professionals. There is a certain visibility made to the public. So Dubai Digital Data Platform, Dubai Pulse, is how this data is provided, access to this data is provided. This can be modeled so that in different precision, it is made available to different stakeholders.
Yes.
Yeah, Umar, this is Ravi again. Can I touch upon some subject, which is associated to the previous question? We are facing a problem here with reference to identifying the data with reference to legality of use. Any data, every data that comes in cannot be really used because it creates chaos in planning. We need to use the legal data. So if you look at the data in India, the smallest unit for purpose of planning is cadastral identity. That's where they start. Now, have all these planning institutions in the country been able to take care of the data, at least for the precision that they are holding it on? That's a big question today for me, because whatever master plans that I see here, it is the cadastral data which has been messed up thoroughly. That is the smallest unit. Okay.
Let me explain to you. I did a project for Seychelles, Republic of Seychelles, to establish a land information system. Now, when I went there to induct the project, the minister asked me, what would be the resolution of this data? Would it be centimeters? Would it be meters? Now, I found a very big challenge, and I'm sure you also find the same challenge there. What I found is, there is a recorded area, there is a GIS area, and there is a sold area. Now, how do we effectively solve this. Now, what I did was, I instituted a policy whereby every single surveyor who is surveying on any land will submit directly to the GIS system the data in the beacon accuracy. When I say beacon accuracy, they are taken from beacon. These are the stones that are there on the ground, and they are identified. And that area, we call it surveyed area, which should be in centimeters. Now, the recorded area will undergo a process by which every land that is transactioned, the accuracy of that particular data is continuously getting better and better. So unless there is a policy directive from the government to implement this kind of precision on a transaction, it cannot be done in one go. It can be only through a transaction, whereby the recorded area, the GIS area, and the surveyed area is very meticulously, the tags are kept. The metadata of all these things are kept. And gradually, when there is a transaction, this kind of accuracy can be achieved.
Mayuri, you can ask the question.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. It's my privilege to attend this session. I am Mayuri Slavath. I am from School of Planning and Architecture, Vijayawada. So our college has given this opportunity to attend this session today. I have been working as an urban planner specialist for RAC municipality for about 4.5 years, and I just returned back to India for pursuing my master's here. So, sir, from today's session, there is a lot of information I have gained and acknowledged. From today's presentation, I just have one question regarding the indoor visitor count, sir. So, you have mentioned that the landowner of the particular mall can cost the person depending on the visitor count. So, can you please explain this, sir? Like, is it that all the persons who are entering the mall would purchase something from the mall, or is it how it is dependent, sir?
Very good question. Yeah. Well, when we create the indoor map, the map is effectively residing in the server. And when you use an app, or when you walk into the mall with your mobile phone, the mobile phone is continuously getting connected to the beacons if it is placed, or GSM or Wi-Fi. Through triangulation, we are able to identify where exactly is your mobile phone. In fact, where are you standing? So to a meter precision, to a meter accuracy, we are able to identify where exactly you are standing. So if you're using an app, we are able to send you an alert saying that there is a sale right now going on. It's a spot sale. So this is the way that we are able to identify. So the accuracy depends largely upon what kind of technology is used. If you are using beacons, then it is very high accurate. But if you are not using beacons, if you have created the map using some other technology or some other method, then the accuracy will reduce. To answer your question, the user does not need to have anything bought or any downloaded. But if the user is connected and using a mall app, then you are able to receive the notification.
So having said that, sir, thank you for that answer, sir. Having said that, there is another small question. From my perspective, if one human is going to use a lot of apps that is happening right now, the generation is adapted to many different apps, social media and shopping and etc. So does it become a too much intense use of technology? Could the human brain manage this mental balance of using this technology in one day at different places? What is your opinion, sir?
Well, it's a very it's a philosophical question whether how much technology we have to use. Well, I would say here even if you don't use an app, the system that you have is able to identify your mobile phone, and you are able to send real-time notifications, because just by the virtue of your mobile number being available to the operator, and it is available, so we can send a notification. Well, you see, yes, it is quite a lot of technology, and I'm sure that it is overwhelming. To answer your question, yes, I do agree with you, it is overwhelming, but that's the world that we are living in.
Okay, so thank you so much, sir.
I think that we are already close to 9 p.m. So I think we can close the session. There is not much of questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh sir, and thank you, Umar sir, again. Now, to mark the end of today's program, I request our treasurer, Sri Kiran Chandbaya, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Indeed, it's an honor presenting the vote of thanks on behalf of ITPI Kerala chapter as we celebrate the World Town Planning Day. I begin my vote of thanks by thanking our chief guest for today, Srimati SARADA Muralidharan, Additional Chief Secretary, LSGD. It was indeed great listening to her about the topic climate change and its impacts, and also the proactive steps taken by the government of Kerala and LSGD in fighting the climate change, as well as also the topics on e-governance. I also thank her for releasing the ITPI Kerala chapter directory and inaugurating the website. Thank you, ma'am. I now thank our key speaker for the event, Sri UMMER Sahib, Director INFORMAP Technology, Sharjah, UAE, for taking time out of his busy schedule and gracing this event and sharing his thoughts and ideas about GIS advancements in the field of planning. Thank you, sir. I thank Sri J. Jayakumar, Chairman ITPI Kerala Chapter and Additional Chief Town Planner LSGD Planning for being the torchbearer of this chapter and for all his support in making this event a successful one. Thank you, sir. I now thank Sri Rajesh PN, Senior Executive Member, ITPI Kerala Chapter and Senior Town Planner, LSGD Planning for moderating this event. Thank you, sir. I would also like to thank Sri Nigul Devan, Secretary, ITPI Kerala Chapter and Deputy Town Planner, LSGD Planning for all his support and guidance for this event. Thank you, sir. I thank Ms. Malavika and Mrs. Bindu, Executive Members of ITPI Kerala Chapter, for introducing our esteemed guests and being wonderful hosts of this event. Thank you, Malavika and Bindu, ma'am. Finally, I thank all the officials of ITPI National Committee, ITPI Kerala Chapter Executive Members, ITPI members, faculties of professional institutions, officers of LSGD Planning, and students of various planning institutions. Thank you, everyone, for making this event a successful one. With that note, we sign off for today, and we'll be back with another great talk soon. Keep supporting us and have a great weekend. Good night.
Thank you, everyone, for taking your time to join us. Hope to meet you all again for the upcoming 5th session of our web talk series towards better planning and implementation. Once again, a big thanks and stay safe.